Hi everyone, hope you're having a wonderful day. It's Leander here and I'm about to embark upon day 2 and 3 of the Lenormarch journey. So day 2 asks, what are your experiences with Lenormand, if any? How did you first hear about it and what is your exposure to this system? Well, first of all, where I heard about it, a friend of mine, I was aware of gypsy cards. But I certainly didn't delve in to the point where I decided to buy any until a friend of mine did a course, like a weekend workshop, where they used gypsy cards. And once I held a deck in my hands, I was really quite intrigued by them as she began to tell me just a little bit about how they work. So I thought that was really cool and began to just do some Google image searches just to see what was around. And from there, I discovered Kipper cards, and they were predominantly based in Italy and Germany, I think. And yes, a lot of them in the European languages. And there were so many I wanted. It just went on this long, winding journey, a little bit like the snake. It just, I jumped onto Amazon and there's all these different types of cards and thought it was really quite intriguing. But I ended up just purchasing these little guys simply because I thought they were really funny and funky. The Gypsy Witch cards, and of course, they were $7, so you can't really complain. But I did read about them, that they were very straight to the point. There is no beating about the bush when it comes to giving you your message, and the whole thing just really intrigued me. Of course, the artwork leaves a lot to be desired compared to the beautiful decks you see in the Lenormand tradition, but anywho, I still love them. There's something kind of cheeky about them that I like. But besides that, I bought them only weeks before I was due to go to the US. And when I was there in Los Angeles, I asked my friend if she wouldn't mind taking me to a few crystal shops or metaphysical stores. So we went down to the Mystic Journey bookstore in Venice Beach, which is absolutely beautiful in every way, with magnificent stock. And it was there that I saw a Lenormand deck. And it just seemed to jump out because this is quite a large store. They just jumped out at me and I wasted no time in buying them. I didn't even know specifically how Lenormand worked. I thought, oh, I've heard of that. It must have been one of those Google things I saw. I'm just going to buy them because they're tiny and gorgeous. I loved the artwork, and I'll just, take it from there. So that was that. But we spent quite a bit of time in that bookstore. And on the other side, I came across a book. So I thought, oh, okay, well, I may as well buy a book. So I have far more information than the little white book. And it was something enjoyable to read on my journeys. So that's where I came across it. And that was 3 years ago in May. It'll be 3 years this May. So my exposure to them came just through interest in gypsy cards, and began to obviously just play around a lot with them at home myself. Once I returned to Australia, I joined a Lenormand card study group, and it was wonderful to meet a lot of people. You can post spreads and put your opinion forward, as do others, and they help you along. And I thought it's still going. The whole system's really fantastic. And all of that, I guess the only little stumbling block I had was due to the fact that a lot of the people on or in the study group that were very experienced and I was not, I noticed how a lot of people had slightly different interpretations of combinations. So in other words, I learned the meanings of every card from my book, and then I began to search. I found Cafe Lenormand a little bit later on, but there were a couple of websites here and there, and I was so blessed to find Hex Claire. I hope that's how you pronounce her channel. And I just thought she was absolutely fantastic. And then I realized there's a German system and a French. So I loved the learning. I wrote many notes. I found Donna Lay on YouTube after that. And there's another gentleman, forgive me, I can't think of his name. I think Lyndon Hertz mentioned him. Is he French? And then there's another guy from, I think, from South Africa. Anyway, there were 3, maybe 4 channels on YouTube that were teaching Lenormand, which I thought was fantastic. But I ended up becoming just a little bit confused over the different interpretations of the combinations, not the card meaning itself. So I wasn't forthcoming in utilizing them with clients. I just thought I will stick to what I know. However, I did do a lot of spreads for myself and friends and for a few clients that I know very, very well. And I said, this is on my time. Would you, at the end of the read, like to just take an adventure with these beautiful cards? We can ask a few questions and we'll see how we go from there. So that's basically how that happened. And I mean, nobody ever came back and complained, but for no particular reason, I drifted away from them for quite a little while. I didn't have any bad experiences. It's just that I think it was because there were a lot of beautiful new tarot decks starting to come through, and I do a 12-card astrological spread that my clients know, and that's what they request. So it was just one of those things. So that's why I really need to reconnect and fall in love all over again and get over that phobia about the card combinations. And I understand it is in everyone's best interests to pick either one or the other. And just because I love learning, I did delve into both. So maybe I'm glad I did. And it does make sense, but that was what I found difficult. They all made sense. So if someone said, sun plus woman plus mountain, and 3 or 4 people would give their interpretation as to the meaning, I could understand where all of them were coming from. And that's what made me feel a little bit nervous about using them for clients. But I thought, well, how do you know which one's right? I hope that makes sense. So anyway, that was my journey in the very, very early days. So I didn't walk away because I didn't like them. I just seemed to drift off and go into tarot oracle land for a while. Now, day 3, what books on Lenormand do you have? Which do you recommend? Which do you want? Do you even think that they are necessary in a system that is, at its base, seemingly so simple? Well, that was my foot. How uncouth. But I don't want to start again. Forgive me. Okay. The book that I bought in LA was this one here. And would you believe Sylvie Steinbach was actually working there that day, and I'm so sad that I didn't get back there to have a read with her. I would have loved to have experienced that. Her cards were actually for sale as well, but I had already purchased my cards before I realised this book even existed, and I thought, no, the cards that came to me first are the cards I'm going to stay with. Also, her cards were a little larger, and I was really fascinated by the fact that, some of the Lenormand decks are really tiny. Being a tarot person, I thought that was very groovy. So I left it at that. I got a lot out of this book, but obviously this was the very first book that I had purchased. I didn't even look into buying books. I didn't think about buying books until I went into that bookstore. But I thought it gave a decent rundown on, the key meanings, descriptions, the astrological reference, any special features, body connections. Sometimes there would be timing. And then what I really loved as an absolute beginner were the card associations. So in other words, the combinations. So every card is combined with another card. In hindsight, I guess after having learned from quite a number of other people and websites now, some of the combinations that she uses, I think, I'm not sure if they work for me, but that doesn't mean I'm right and she's wrong. I totally understand that maybe you could say there is a minimal amount of interpretation, even though these are far more black and white in their meaning than tarot. But some of them, I guess I thought, I'm not sure now that I know what I know, why it would mean that. But again, she is far more experienced than I. And I think Lenormand goes back in her family line sometime as well. I think I read that somewhere. I know this book isn't for everyone only because of some of the reviews that I did read. But do I regret buying it? Absolutely not. And of course, I bought it while I was traveling. I just really enjoyed sitting down in a cafe and playing with the cards and reading up on them. But I still use it. I've tabbed every card, and I'm very grateful to have it. Then when I returned home, I joined the Lenormand card study group on Facebook, and there were many people that recommended this book. And Rana George herself is a part of the group, or she participates. And I thought this was a fantastic book. I still do. It's very thick. There is so much information. And what I really love is Rana's story. I listened to an interview with her, like a radio interview online, and found her story to be very, very intriguing. And also, again, Lenormand goes back in, generations, I think. I know her grandmother, at least, was a very experienced reader, and she gifted Rana her first Lenormand deck when she was 8 years old. And she said by the time her grandma had used it so much, and then she did, it was almost disintegrating in her hands. So it was very, very special, and she wrapped it up in a beautiful cloth and keeps it in a box. And obviously had to move on to another deck. So she has done many, many spreads. She's very experienced. She grew up in Lebanon and has been living in the US for some years now. So I bought this because it was highly recommended by many, many people. She does give examples, but they're not as in-depth. It's not that they're not as in-depth. They are, but she might only give 2 or 3 examples per combination, whereas this book here will give you every combination with every card. So I think it's a matter of personal preference. And Kelly was asking, do we think that books are necessary? Again, like everything, it's a personal decision. However, I will say that I'm very happy to buy the book. I think for any system, even if it is black and white, or, if there is a very structured meaning to these cards, I think you can always learn by reading a book by somebody that is far more experienced than yourself. Personally, I love books, so I wouldn't have it any other way. I have no intention of reselling or giving these away, put it that way. So I need to go back and read this book. It's been some time since I read it, and I think it'll just awaken a lot of dormant, information and knowledge that's sitting there in my mind, at the back of my mind. So let's see, have I missed out on anything? So do I think it's necessary? I would say I can't say that it's necessary. However, I really do recommend it. I'm just making sure there's nothing I've forgotten here. Oh, do I want any books? I feel like there's so much wonderful information out there now, especially with channels like Hex Claire, and Donna Lay hasn't done anything for a while, I don't think, but there are many videos you can go back and watch. And of course, Kelly from The Truth in Story, the goddess of all goddesses as far as I'm concerned. She has lessons, information, grand tableau. I mean, goodness me, there's so much you can learn just by watching her videos. So as I say, do you need a book? Not necessarily. And there's Cafe Lenormand and a few other websites out there that are fantastic. So I can't honestly say there is a book that I want to buy, although I'm curious about the Complete Lenormand Oracle Handbook by Caitlin Matthews, because I really do like her. So I guess that would be the only other comment I'd add to that. So before I start rambling on too much, I'm going to end this and continue on shortly. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.